Today on the podcast, I want to talk about a company called Peripheral Labs. They're essentially using self-driving car technology to bring you right into a sports game. There's a whole bunch of interesting things going on here, and I think there's a bunch of implications for the AI industry overall. So today on the show, I want to dive into some of the cool technology that they've recently launched and kind of unveiled. Before we get into that, I wanted to mention the sponsor of today's episode is Delve.com. If compliance is something that is slowing down your deals, then I'd love for you to check out this sponsor, Delve. If you're interested in SOC 2, HIPAA, GDPR, if these things are important to you, Delve is amazing. They use AI agents to automate compliance. They do this end to end. Essentially, they collect evidence, they fill out security questionnaires, they customize controls to your actual business so you can get compliant in days and not months. You also get one-on-one Slack support from real security experts who respond fast. Over 1,000 fast-growing companies trust Delve to close deals faster and to stay compliant as they scale. So if this sounds interesting to you, you can book a demo at delve.com. I will leave a link in the description. All right, let's get into the episode. So I think right now there's a lot of different reports out there that basically say live sports viewership is declining for certain leagues, I think particularly among Gen Z audiences. In response to this, leagues and broadcasters are experimenting with a whole bunch of new formats that essentially, like, the goal is just to make the games more interactive. A lot of them are doing things to try to make it more data rich or engaging. They're kind of enhancing the viewer experience. They're trying to add like advanced statistics and deep analysis, like a bunch of things that they think will make this more interesting for people. One emerging approach is called volumetric video. Essentially what this is just allowing viewers to watch plays from multiple angles, so you can create kind of like a video game-like experience. This particular technology, it uses an array of cameras that capture footage in 3D, and then they let fans move freely through a play and view it from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Honestly, this is really cool, right? You can imagine typically when you watch a game, you're watching it from the angle of the camera on TV, or if you're at the actual game, you can just see it, maybe you're behind the goal or on the side, like you just see it from that one angle. So there's a company out of Toronto called Peripheral Labs, and they're working to make this volumetric video affordable enough for widespread adoption. So basically all teams can use it, leagues, broadcasters, and everyone else. This is a company, Peripheral Labs. They're founded back in 2024, so a very new company by Kelvin Q and Mustafa Khan. Both of them previously worked on the University of Toronto's autonomous driving team. They won a bunch of different competitions, but Khan later became a researcher at Huawei. Q worked as a software engineer at Tesla, focusing on chassis systems. This is what Q said about this. The new company said, Mustafa and I are both lifelong sports fans. He's a huge Arsenal supporter, and I've followed the Vancouver Canucks since I was 7. It's funny. Personally, I'm from Vancouver Island in Canada, so the closest big team to us was also the Vancouver Canucks, so I relate as the Canucks were my team growing up. And in fact, I just saw one of their games like a month ago with some friends in North Carolina against the Carolina Hurricanes. So the Vancouver Canucks did not win, but it was a good game. In any case, Kai said, when he showed me his research on 3D reconstruction, I immediately thought about how incredible it would be to watch hockey this way with fluid multi-angle controls. That's what led us to start Peripheral Labs. So I think volumetric caption itself is not a new technology, but these founders believe that recent advances in AI and computer vision have essentially made it practical at scale. So by applying techniques developed for self-driving cars, including robotics, perception, and 3D vision, their goal is to reduce the number of cameras that you actually need for a full volumetric reconstruction. Because right now you need like more than 100, and they think they can get that down to 32, which makes it more affordable, more realistic. Obviously, hundreds of cameras in the arena is just a lot to take on. So if they can bring that down to 32, and maybe in the future even less, you can use kind of this reconstruction to still get the full experience for much cheaper. According to Q and Khan, this is a lot less expensive for hardware, but also it's the operational complexity that they're solving, because 100 cameras is pretty difficult just operating it and making everything tie together and work. So Peripheral Labs plans to keep installation costs as low as possible for teams and broadcasters. They're trying to get multi-year platform contracts, and their software also captures biomechanical data. So that's player movement, joint flexation. They have like these proprietary sensor stacks that are similar to those found in autonomous vehicles. All of the data enables new ways for broadcasters and fans to essentially interact with live games. Viewers could isolate and follow a single player, right? So if you have a favorite player, you could follow them whenever they're on the field or on the ice. You could freeze moments in play to kind of look at some controversial calls to see exactly what happened. Or you could look at key plays from a lot of different angles using photorealistic 3D reconstruction. I think on the coaching side, it's also very interesting. They can essentially let you track detailed joint movements like your knees, your ankles, even your fingers, which I think could give a lot of really interesting insights into body positioning, flexibility, performance optimization for some of the players. Something that Q said about this, he said, "Well, we use off-the-shelf camera. Our advantage comes from how we combine them with robotics and machine learning. That allows us to scale from small practice facilities to large soccer and football stadiums." They recently raised a $3.6 million seed round led by Coachella Ventures. They had participation from Daybreak Capital and Entrepreneurs First and Transpose Platforms. So Joe Rose, who's a partner at Entrepreneur First, said that the firm was really impressed by the founders' follow with, how much they had done within the University of Toronto's autonomous driving community. While sports startups can be really challenging to invest in, he said that Peripheral Labs is both a sports and entertainment platform, so this is more interesting to them. They said, to the end consumer is the viewer, and demand for the sport content is evergreen. Peripheral is helping redefine a new standard for how that content is consumed through immersive volumetric video. The work we're doing now creates a data and deployment advantage that will be hard to replicate. One thing that I think was pretty smart, Peripheral Labs was pretty selective in how they chose their investors. Basically, they're looking for people who could contribute to the product development and their go-to-market strategy. They currently only have 10 engineers. They're planning to expand their team, and they're going to focus on the platform and the hardware optimization to try to reduce costs, lower the latency, and basically improve the reconstruction resolution. I mean, right now they're saying they're trying to bring it from like 100 cameras down to 32. It would be pretty incredible if they could bring that down to 10 cameras or something where they just have a handful around the stadium and they could reconstruct the whole game in 3D. There's a lot of impressive things you can do now with AI. So I think while the startup hasn't publicly disclosed who their partners are, like what teams they're working with, they have said that they're in active discussions with multiple teams and leagues across North America, and they are competing with companies like Arcturus Studios in this kind of volumetric sports capture space. So there are other players that are doing the same thing. There's other companies, but it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. If you learned anything new, if this was an interesting topic, I tried to find one that was AI adjacent, but it's got some really cool, interesting technology and applications. If that was exciting or interesting to you to have kind of this type of company covered, make sure to leave a rating and review and let me know your thoughts on this. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And as always, check out the sponsor of today's video, delve.com. There is a link in the description.